Traps, what do you think about the Cleveland Browns, their draft needs, and what they might target, or who they might target, in the 2023 NFL draft with their they don't have any first round picks. So Josh, you wouldn't care.
It's got to be wide receiver for Deshaun Watson. I like Sky Moore. I have a first round grade on him. If you followed me anywhere on Twitter, read my articles at cbssports.com, you've probably read something about my draft love of the Western Michigan wide receiver. I'm not as high on Christian Watson from North Dakota State as really anyone, but he had a crazy workout at the combine. He's 6'4". There's all upside with him. So if the Browns are saying, hey, we have a quarterback that can tap into that potential, then let's pick Christian Watson in the second round, defensive tackle and edge rusher. I think when the Browns had that pick inside the top 15, I went on a couple Cleveland radio spots and they said it's got to be wide receiver or edge rusher. And some names, Arnold Ebiketie from Penn State, Drake Jackson from USC, kind of polar ends of the spectrum, in that Ebiketie's a little shorter, smaller, more compact. I think he's more NFL ready. Drake Jackson bulked up to over 270 pounds at the USC Pro Day, 6'4", was a huge recruit. The speed and bend around the corner is definitely there. He's just not great with his hands yet. Would be kind of like Christian Watson at wide receiver, a more upside selection. So either a wide receiver to help out Deshaun Watson there, or just to shore up the front seven on that defensive line in Cleveland.
Yeah, so Cleveland still has 3 picks in the top 100, so there's some opportunities there for them to improve the roster. Traps noted the wide receivers. I think that's absolutely a possibility. The defensive front seven, I think, is probably the biggest need right now. I think if I had to guess, Cleveland will probably be active in adding a couple, at least one, possibly 2 free agent wide receivers. So I think by the time the draft arrives, they're probably going to be looking defensive front seven. And specifically the defensive tackle and edge rusher positions. Jackson is a guy that I'm probably a little higher on than most because I don't think USC used him properly. I think there was a lot of untapped potential with him there in Los Angeles. So I think his best football is still ahead of him. Travis Jones, who I've already mentioned, Logan Hall are a couple of guys that could be in the mix for Cleveland. And then as you get into later day 2, Matthew Butler, who I mentioned on the NFC podcast last week from Tennessee, is a guy that could be of interest to Cleveland. And then Joshua Pascal, and the edge rusher from Kentucky, is a guy that could be in the mix as well, because Cleveland has been looking for kind of an edge setting defensive end opposite Myles Garrett. And I think Pascal is a guy that certainly fits the bill.
Love it. Josh, this is just a me thing. I've been talking too much. Have we talked to you since the Watson trade? Like we could have talked 7 times, and I could be like, I can't remember anything. Like I can't remember when Watson got traded. I can't remember, I couldn't remember what day Tom Brady came out. The last 3 weeks have just been insane.
No, I get it. We did touch on it briefly last week. Honestly, I don't remember the nature of the conversation either at this point.
Well, I guess I was going to ask you, how do you feel about the trade itself? I mean, from a football perspective, it's not an issue. I'm just curious. I know there are some Browns fans who are like, I know you don't have to be out, but some Browns fans are like, I'm out. Even like
Mark Sessler.
Yeah, Mark Sessler. Exactly. Sessler is like, I think I'm out on the Browns, even though he's been a tortured Browns fan his whole life. I'm just curious how, and then too, for the football conversation of it, the compensation portion, I'm curious whether you like the Browns doing that, because it's a lot of draft picks, and you're giving up 13 this year, and could end up giving up a top half of the draft pick next year. I don't know, it's a lot.
Yeah, the off-field stuff is something that I'm still personally working through. I kind of haven't resolved my emotions in regards to that yet. I'm probably
I didn't mean to put you on the spot with that one, but that's a perfectly reasonable answer, by the way. It's like, I don't know how to, as a Browns fan, how am I supposed to process this,
Yeah, I've been asked several times, so it's not like it was so much on the fly that I had to answer. I've been dealing with this, for a couple of weeks now. So I'm probably taking a little bit more of a calculated approach to it. I know in today's society, it's easier to make a quick judgment, but, taking some time to work through that. From a football standpoint, in terms of draft compensation, I think it was perfectly fair. we saw what Russell Wilson was just traded for. I mean, Cleveland has already traded, allowed Houston to acquire Deshaun Watson. So you could factor that into the actual trade. And if you eventually trade him when he's, in his 30s, you could probably recoup the entire, terms of the deal that you had to give up for Deshaun Watson. So I'm not conflicted about the draft compensation and what it took. Financially, the $230 million guaranteed, that's a lot. I mean, he's a guy that has been removed from football for over a year, and it's going to alter how you make other football decisions. I mean, you've got Denzel Ward coming up for a contract here shortly. Amari Cooper is going to, count $20 million against the salary cap each of the next 2 years if you continue to employ him. So they're going to have to be very, I think, diligent about how they use their salary cap over the next couple of years so that they're in an advantageous position to continually capitalize on the intrigue of possibly playing with a guy like Deshaun Watson.